Hi, fourth graders. Mr. Askelson here. It is Thursday, May 7th, 2020. Today on the matrix, you're working on some addition and subtraction. So I think this should be fairly easy for you, but let's just review a couple strategies that you can use when you're adding and subtracting, especially when you get to some larger numbers. First and foremost, you got to understand and remember place value. The digits in a number go in certain place values, the ones, the tens, the hundreds, the ones, the tens, the hundreds. So sometimes it's kind of helpful to use a place value chart or even just draw the lines so that you make sure that you build your number from the hundreds on up, or from the ones on up. And then when you start your addition or your subtraction, you always start that in the ones, never over on the left side, but starting in the ones. And remember, if you're adding and you get more than 10, you move that 10 into the tens column, then you add again. If you get a 10, then you move that 10 over to the hundreds column, called regrouping. So make sure that you do those, first of all, lining the digits up correctly, understanding that you're adding, and then regrouping if necessary. And there are a lot of different strategies that you can use to help you add. One of the things is decomposing and composing numbers. I could take the number 415 plus 136 and break it down into its expanded form. So then I'm adding basically hundreds, tens, and ones. So 415 breaks down into 400 plus 10 plus 5. 136 breaks down into 130 plus 6. Then I add the ones together. I add the tens together. I add the hundreds together, and then add those together to come up with my answer of 551. I like using blocks, but sometimes blocks can get a little bit messy when you're working with larger numbers. But remember, the squares would count as 100, the sticks count as 10, and the small individual little blocks count as ones. So you can put those together and count those up, and it kind of gives you that hands-on feel for counting the actual objects. When it comes to subtraction, kind of the same thing. Make sure you line up the digits. Make sure you start subtracting in the ones column. And I always ask myself, I've got 6. Can I take 5 away? If the answer is yes, then I subtract. If the answer is no, then I have to go next door and do some regrouping. 6 minus 5 I can do, gives me 1. Now I move into the next column. 3 minus 4, can't do that, so I need to borrow a little bit from the hundreds place, and I bring one of those over and make that 13. 13 minus 4 is 9. I have 3 left in the hundreds place, minus 2 equals 1. I can use the decomposing for subtraction too. I can break apart those numbers, and you can see I had to do a little regrouping in here, or I should say right in here, because the 6 is less than the 9. So I did have to take a 10 from here, make this 16 before I could actually do my computations here. But sometimes breaking the number apart just separates things out, makes it a little easier to see and work on. Base 10 blocks again, certainly can do those. Once again, the squares are 100, the sticks are 10, and the individuals are ones. A number line is also a great way to show subtraction by counting backwards. And you can see the jumps they've made here to subtract 136 minus 239. And you can see here's the 200, the 30, and then the 9 right in here, that they're counting back from my beginning number of 376. On your activity for today too, you do have some story problems, and the strategy that we use to help us understand what it is we're going to do on a particular story problem is using that cube strategy. Circle any key numbers, underline the question, box math action words, and then evaluate what are you going to do, what steps are you going to take to solve the problem, and then solve and check. So I think you'll have a pretty easy time of the activities today. You've been working on addition and subtraction for a long time. But if you get stuck, use some of these strategies to kind of help yourself work through it, or ask someone in your family if they can show you how they've learned addition and subtraction and get some help from them. So I hope this helps fourth graders. Have a great day.